بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. My dear viewers, brothers, sisters, friends, whoever is interested in continuing to tackle this very important challenge that faces the Muslim community in the West, albeit, we see it everywhere in the world. It's the challenge of Islamophobia. Last week, I started by a definition of Islamophobia that was forwarded by a non-Muslim etymologist who defined it as the hate of others simply because of the way they look and end up causing harm to individuals and communities. Indeed, we are seeing this all over Canada, in the United States, in Europe, all over the world. And today I want to continue in the short time that we have in this second episode talking about Islamophobia to talk about some manifestations, some of the causes. Why? If you go to tell the doctor about a problem that you are experiencing, the doctor would like to know the causes before a diagnosis is made. And, there are intrinsic as well as extrinsic causes. Not all the causes of Islamophobia are coming at the Muslim community from outside. We are partly to blame because when the others feel insecure in our presence, they have to react. This is human nature. And let me start by mentioning that we have the tendency to isolate ourselves, to present ourselves as different. And here I would like to mention that in order for us to be accepted by the other, we have to show that we are socially friendly. We have to show that we can live in this society together with the others without compromising our values. And this is very important. We talked about that in the previous series about the family, how we really need to do something of a balance between isolation and assimilation by coming into the society and sharing those things that do not compromise our values. This is extremely important. We have to start certain programming in order to reach out to our neighbors. I tell you, in my old neighborhood, there were 5 neighbors in our circle, and I started a kind of practice whenever it is winter break. It is time for people to celebrate Christmas, to celebrate their New Year. And, there's nothing. I want here to tackle that controversy that says it is not proper to congratulate others for their celebrations. I tell you, there are many ways we can tell the others that we are happy for their happiness. And this is how they start to feel closer to us. My argument in this respect is that وَإِذَا حُيِّيتُمْ بِتَحِيَّةٍ فَحَيُّوا بِأَحْسَنَ مِنْهَا أَوْ رُدُّوهَا. If you are greeted, if you are given a certain greeting, it is your responsibility to return that. But if you to return it with a better greeting or by a greeting equal to what you received. So now it is a fact, and let's face it, that there are many people around us who tell us when it is Eid, they know Eid Mubarak, and they greet us. And now when it is their time to celebrate their occasions, we cannot just ignore it, because we are told that we should reciprocate, we should send it back, we should give them that greeting. So in my old neighborhood, as I mentioned, I used to prepare a package. My wife and I and my children will, put all kinds of things in a package, and we will take it as a family, knock on their doors, and just tell them happy holidays. We did not mention Christmas, we did not mention any religious connotations, but we just said happy holidays. The impact of such a practice made our neighbors, who in the beginning were a little bit apprehensive, feel so close to us. And I want to tell you that every Ramadan, and they knew it was Ramadan, they would bring us gifts. They knew that we were fasting. And because we were of the habit of, whenever we have a certain dish, as we used to back home to exchange dishes in Ramadan, we used to do that with our neighbors. And whenever my wife would make something sweet, we would send it to them. They loved that. They felt that their Muslim neighbors were friendly. And because of that, they, and I tell you, one of our neighbors, one of those five, told us that they used to fear Muslims because they used to think that Muslims are here to take over their culture and to force the Sharia law on the Canadian way of living. And, that brought us to explain to them what Sharia is all about, and that it is not something to fear, and it is not something that we have any interest in imposing on anybody. And by explanation, people's fears start to die down. Another thing that we really need to do, and I'm still continuing to talk about intrinsic things that come from within our community that will alleviate that fear slowly, slowly, slowly. We have to be very careful not to cry wolf. And by that, whenever someone is not friendly to us because of their nature, not to attribute that to the hijab, for example, or to the fact that simply because we are Muslim, they are dealing with us in such a way. There was a recent incident at one of the restaurants in GTA, and I really felt very uncomfortable to hear one of the influencers attribute the way they were treated at the restaurant simply because they were hijabis, as she mentioned. And it turned out not to be that, because they were violating the pandemic rules, the restrictions, and they were not following what they were supposed to follow as rules at that restaurant. And that's why they were asked to leave, not because of their hijab, not because they were Muslims, but they went on the social media and they said, simply because we are Muslims, we were asked to leave and we were kicked out, and we asked everybody to boycott such a restaurant. This is not right, because when people find out the truth, they will deepen their dislike of Muslims, and this is not proper. Another thing I want to tell you, that one time, and I have to speak very quickly because of time, one time one of the principals in one of the schools in London asked me to come please help us. Two brothers, whenever the Canadian national anthem would be played in the morning at the school, these two brothers would put their fingers in their ears because they did not want to hear it, because they were told by their parents that music is haram and you shouldn't listen to music, and they wouldn't even stand up with the rest of their colleagues. And, this is disrespectful. We know that back home, where I call back home, when in fact this is home now, we used to stand up for our national anthem. We used actually to stand with all respect and with attention. And why not in Canada? Is it because this is a country that we do not call a Muslim community or a Muslim society. This is not right. And the father, actually, I found out who the father was, and it was a long debate with that father, who told me that we cannot allow our children to listen to music. So I basically say to such parents, please, try to understand how we should allow our children to develop a way of interaction with the others. Another thing, number 4, I want to mention that the same as there is an Islamic dress with a Moroccan cultural flavor, with a Saudi cultural flavor, with a Pakistani cultural flavor, with an Egyptian cultural flavor, I say, why not, those brilliant women in our community put something that is Canadian in nature. Let's have a Canadian Islamic dress that meets all the Islamic values and go out to the society in a way that does not make them feel that Muslims are here to culturally take over the society, because if they feel that, they will have a repulsive type of feeling, and they will not be willing to interact with us, and Islamophobia will start to grow instead of diminishing. And another factor, which is number 5, and I will stop at this. Next time we will talk about the extrinsic factors that are contributing to Islamophobia. So number 5, which causes Islamophobia to grow, is that we tend to not participate in social type of committees, like, for example, parent-teacher association. We do not volunteer to go out and participate in the planning of activities for the students at the school where our children go. We tend to isolate ourselves. So I encourage you to contact City Hall whenever they want to form committees, to contact the school, to do lots of volunteer work. How beautiful it will be if we volunteer at the local hospital, if we help to raise funds for the hospital, for the library, for try to be part. Let us become visible in a way that shows that we are part of this society, and that will diminish those intrinsic factors that are coming from within our community. God willing, we will be able to do that. Next week, inshallah, we will talk about the extrinsic factors, things that are coming from outside, and we really need to be very aware of and advocate to make sure that they will disappear from our midst. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to eliminate Islamophobia and xenophobia from our midst. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.